Ladies and gentlemen, episode number 198 of Let's Go Racing. Tyler Jones, Dominic, Aragon, and Matt Kemp here with you as we look back at Chase Briscoe's win, the second straight year in the Southern 500. We'll break that all down for you. Coming up, we'll also look ahead to this weekend's action in St. Louis at Gateway, the second race of the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, and break down the Cup Series playoff picture in just a moment. We'll go over our news and notes and our mailbag segment as well at the end of today's show. Dominic joins us right now. Dom, let's start with you. Chase Briscoe, second straight year winning the Southern 500, second win of the season for him. And we know that he's got a lot of poles. He's been running up front. This has been a breakout season for Chase Briscoe. I think when we look back in recent memory, there was the year that Ross Chastain had, or Chris Buescher, and some of these others. I think if you had to point to one driver who's had that breakout season this year, it has to be Chase Briscoe.
It's certainly a career year with the stats he's put up, the laps he's led, the poles. He's picked up where Martin Truex Jr. left off in that 19 car. We knew whoever was going to replace Truex would have big shoes to fill, a driver that wins multiple races and poles and in the playoffs every single year, with the exception of 2022, of course. But nonetheless, Chase Briscoe has lived up to the hype in that 19 car. And only, weird to say, Tyler, only his fourth career win and only two this year. Seems like there should be a lot more in that column, but the way they're running, those wins are going to be racking up rather quick. And for him to be the next driver, only driver at this time that is advanced to the round of 12, Chase Briscoe and the 19 team are feeling really good right now.
Matt, let's go to you now. Welcome back. Matt Kemp with us throughout the playoff run here on Let's Go Racing. Matt, the win for Chase Briscoe, his second of the year, and securing a spot in the next round of the playoffs. What I'm very curious, when you look at Chase Briscoe and that 19 team, do you think with the speed they've shown in getting a playoff victory, is that a team that you think realistically compete for the championship? Could we talk about Chase Briscoe winning the title, or is this still just kind of a prove it situation? Is he still finding his footing here? What do you think of his championship chances after getting this win now?
Well, my first question is, are we sure that Chase Briscoe was driving and it wasn't Martin Truex Jr.? Because that was just absolute domination. 309 out of 367 laps is pretty darn sweet. So, but to answer your question, I absolutely do think they are a championship caliber team. They are certainly firing on all cylinders. And I think they proved it starting off the playoffs the way they did. And that's why I picked them to go all the way to the championship four anyway.
Did you hear Chase Briscoe's comments, Tyler, this week on the Let's Go, or not the Let's Go Racing, the Dale Jr. download last week about just the difference in his cars that he's driving now versus Stewart-Haas? He broke that down so well, talking about how these cars have a lot more grip and he can do a lot more with them compared to when he was with SHR.
I did not. Tell the folks about what he was saying there.
Yeah, essentially that these cars that he has now, and he wasn't ragging SHR. I think he was just speaking the truth. That he thought all the cars drove the way that they did at SHR, and maybe it was a little bit of a different dynamic with JGR, but getting into the seat at JGR, he gave a great example, and Matt could talk more about this too, because he's ripped around Kansas Speedway, but in a Stewart-Haas 14 car versus the 19 car, he said he was able to essentially run the car wide open in the 19 team, lap after lap on a long run. He couldn't have done that with the 14 team. So even the way these cars are set up are a lot different. How these cars with Joe Gibbs Racing versus the Stewart-Haas Racing cars. And again, I don't want to get his comments out of context, but that's essentially what it was. These cars have more grip, that he feels more dialed in on the racetrack and is able to do a lot more with these cars versus when he was with SHR.
Yeah, so to comment on that, actually, Dom, on the Joe Gibbs Racing side of it, I did hear those comments as well from Chase Briscoe, and I thought it made a whole lot of sense. I know what we're doing on the ARCA side is different scale, certainly. But, man, I can tell you those cars are a different class of car. It's pretty incredible racing around them. And basically what he was describing, I can only imagine.
Now, to that point, Matt, when you look at SHR of what they were, that's an organization that had won multiple titles with Tony Stewart and with Kevin Harvick. And towards the end of Kevin Harvick's tenure and then to the close of SHR, there was a significant fall off, obviously, within that organization. And then you see what he does at Joe Gibbs Racing. What do you think the reason was? Is it just that Joe Gibbs Racing is a better team with more funding, or what would you say is the big of why we're seeing Chase Briscoe have that significant step up in success this year compared to last?
I definitely don't think, at least from the outside looking in, it doesn't seem like it's one thing specifically. It seems like it's really just kind of a lot of different things coming together. I think the cars are obviously the best of the best. I mean, anywhere you go, Joe Gibbs has got the best equipment. I think that there's a big mindset change. I think he's talked about that a lot on a different podcast that he's been on, different interviews. But Joe Gibbs Racing is a lot more, he said it this week. I think it was basically at Stuart Haas. It was, hey, you know what? We were just going to the racetrack. We're having a good time. Wherever we end up, we end up. It is what it is. But at Joe Gibbs Racing, he said all 4 cars finished in the top 10. I can't remember what race he said. And basically at the competition meeting, you would have thought that they would have run last that day. So I think there's a big mindset, but also the equipment plays a big role in that too.
Yeah, and you look at that 19 team and the speed that they have, Chase Briscoe finishing races here, Dom, and dominating the fashion. This is a Chase Briscoe that we basically haven't seen since his Xfinity Series days. The way that he's performed, and I think too, this is not a knock on Chase whatsoever. But Dom, what I saw early in his career, I'm a bit surprised to see this type of performance out of him because there was flashes, but there wasn't really the consistency there early in his career. And we mentioned there's a lot of factors that were involved there at SHR, but to me, this is a bit surprising to see him take the significant step up that he has. Are you surprised by this?
I'm actually not. I'm not surprised because you knew he was stepping into an organization that expects winning, and if you don't, you're getting cut. And an organization that has all the tools around you to be successful. And we talked about on the show, I think you and I both had said, we wouldn't be surprised if Chase Briscoe wins at least one race and will make the playoffs. Now, I will say maybe what is a little surprising is it now a multi-win season, all the pole positions that the team has won, the consistency that Briscoe has shown is like what Truex showed in that car. So maybe that is a little surprising, but I'm not shocked that we're seeing the 19 team perform as well as they have in James Small and Chase Briscoe gelling really well together. When you hear of Chase Briscoe dropping weight in the offseason and taking his diet very seriously and his preparation, his research, you knew there were going to be some really big things coming out of that car and that team in 2025. And now the dividends, the fruits of those labor are being enjoyed now.
Yeah, for sure. Matt, let's talk about the rest of the race. What else stood out to you besides Chase Briscoe's performance?
A couple of things, actually. One of the main things is Chevrolet. I couldn't believe if you'd asked me last week, I would not have been able to tell you that AJ Allmendinger and Kyle Busch would be the 2 top Chevrolets of the race. That was extremely surprising, especially Hendrick. They were very far off when they're usually very, very good here. So Chevrolet was one of the main things I took away that was very surprising.
If you didn't watch this race and took a look at the leaderboard at the finish, Dom, I think there's a lot of surprises once you get past Briscoe and Reddick 1-2. Eric Jones third, John Hunter Nemechek fourth, AJ Allmendinger fifth, Bubba sixth, Denny seventh, Kyle Busch eighth, Carson Hocevar ninth, and Chris Buescher 10th. I mean, a big day for some of these non-playoff drivers to get some strong finishes here, Dom.
And to maybe even make it a little bit of a lighthearted thing, I don't know if either of you had seen that meme that was floating around, I don't know if it was Facebook or X, or maybe it was on both of them, but about what is it about Darlington where mid-drivers tend to do really, really well and just have some breakout performances. We've seen that, and Eric Jones was pictured in that. Now, that's a whole other rabbit hole. Eric Jones is not a mid-driver, but very, very well. John Hunter Nemechek raced really well on Saturday night. The Legacy Motor Club looked like the top Toyota team that was just the consistent team. That strategy call by Ben Bayshore and Nemechek to go a little off sequence in stage 1 and lead some laps, and just it paid off the way that did. The Toyota performance was just something to really take note of. And in fact, I think Toyota had the top 5 or all the top 5 late in the race till Allmendinger got the 5th place finish. But For no, and Jeff Gluck had pointed this out of The Athletic, Tyler, for no Chevrolet and Ford teams to have any of their playoff guys in the top 10 was very, very weird. And it could have been a product of track position. It could have just been off setups, but for whole organizations to be off, and you saw how these cars would get mired back in traffic. Denny Hamlin is a great example of that. That really atrocious pit stop they had in stage two that set them back, they never recover. So we know Darlington chews up tires. We know it's a very track dependent type of race that you're going to see in the Southern 500, but very shocking we didn't see Larson and Byron pick their way to the field. Byron did what Chase Briscoe did in the springtime, leading all those laps. Now, he didn't win, but he came very close to doing that. He had that dominance that Briscoe had. William Byron had, what, 20th most of the race? Very shocking to see.
Matt, to Dom's point, with the Chevrolets and Fords having the struggles that they did, is that, do you think, concerning for those two camps, or is this just one race that things didn't work out and they move on to the next? Because you would expect, this being the playoffs, this is the time when you're putting your best foot forward, and that wasn't the case. Do you think that they should be concerned, or do you think it's much ado about nothing?
I think a little bit of concern, especially in Hendrick camp, to be honest with you. It wasn't just like they were a little off. I mean, the best finishing Hendrick car was what, 17th, 18th? And yeah, that's it's pretty rough. That's like 2018 Hendrick, and that's not where they want to be. So no, in the Fords as well. But honestly, the Fords are so good on the short tracks, and honestly, the Chevys have been good in the short tracks. So we'll see how they perform at those places. But I'd say there's a little cause for concern, but I'm not hitting the panic button just yet.
All right, let's break down the rest of the updated playoff picture and go through this piece. Chase Briscoe wins. He's advanced. Denny Hamlin in second, 43 above. Kyle Larson, third, 38 above. Tyler Reddick, fourth, 35 above. Let's start with those guys at the top. Hamlin, Larson, and Reddick. I would think, barring catastrophic, those three are, we would say, Matt, are probably in decent shape going into these next two races.
Yeah, I'd say those three are pretty well in good shape, but anything can happen. I mean, it doesn't, you can still lose a lot of points in one day. So I don't want to say anybody's really safe, but in the round of 16, typically, if you're kind of in the top 3 and 4 in points, you're above 30 some points above, you probably feel like you're in pretty good shape. If you can at least maintain your gap through Gateway and get out of Gateway with somewhere around a 35-point gap, typically that's probably pretty safe, but crazier things have happened.
Meanwhile, behind them, Bubba Wallace at 25 above, William Byron 25 above, Ryan Blaney 22 above, and Ross Chastain 21 above. Dom, looking at those guys, it's interesting. A lot of the experts were saying, hey, Bubba's not going to make it out of the first round, or Ross Chastain's not going to make it out. And each of them, after one race, find themselves in a decent spot here.
Good points cushion. I believe a lot of stage points that were picked up too. In Darlington, that certainly has helped. And that's been a Bubba Wallace and William Byron move of 2025, picking up a lot of stage points. And Wallace more so this past weekend. But the 23 team looking as good as ever and poised for a breakout career year himself. And it's going to take something catastrophic for that not to happen. Of course, we're going to a track where it's a little more flat. And this may not favor Chevrolet. In fact, we'll get into the odds later, but Chevrolet is the long shot manufacturer this upcoming race weekend. So this could bode very well for a favored Toyota driver like a Bubba Wallace or Denny Hamlin to run really well at Gateway in the Ford camp that had just really taken care of business here last year. So if you're a Chevrolet driver like Ross Chastain or William Byron, you might be a lot more concerned than somebody like a Bubba Wallace or a Ryan Blaney in that group of 4 drivers, at least entering this race weekend.
And then the next 4 guys, Austin Cindric, 12 above, Christopher Bell, 11 above, Chase Elliott, 9 above, and Shane Van Gisbergen holding on. He's 3 above the cutoff right now. Matt, looking at those 4 there, Bell and Elliott, I think, after having pretty good regular seasons, they can't be feeling great to see after all this work they've put in, just not much wiggle room from them in the cutoff right now.
No, if you're going to have a few hiccups in a round, this would be the round to have it. So I'd say they could be in a much worse spot, but not by a whole lot. So they better have a pretty good, solid, clean day at Gateway and keep their noses clean, get decent points, and make it through. Because I think, yeah, it's not going to take much, and they'll be on the outside looking in at this point. They kind of had their gimme there in the first race already.
And then moving on, the four that are on the outside looking in, Dom. Joey Logano, 3 back. Austin Dillon, 8 back. Alex Bowman, 19 back. And Josh Berry, 19. Between those four, Dom, who do you think's most likely to bump themselves back into the playoff picture?
Well, those drivers, I feel like Alex Bowman would probably. We just haven't seen the raw speed out of Josh Berry since his win at Las Vegas. We've seen Austin Dillon pick up top 10 finishes, but not stage points. We've seen Joey Logano lead a bunch of laps only to have DNFs and wreck out. But the one consistent, even though he had a bad race this past weekend, has been Alex Bowman picking up stage points, running up front more often than not. When you look at the stat columns too, he has the most top fives, the most top 10 finishes out of anyone in that group. And I believe he would likely have the most stage points among those four drivers. So panic button on all four of them for sure. But Alex Bowman probably has his hand hovering around it the least because they know they can claw their way out. They know the 48 team is in really, really good shape. And more often than not has finished inside the top 10 in each, or in more than 50% of the races during the 2025 season, that is. So Alex Bowman, to me, Tyler, I think probably would be the best to claw himself out of that. But how about SVG too, Tyler? Those 4 wins have kept him inside the top 12. And that strategy that they had got him and crew chief Stephen Dorian just didn't work out, but had that late caution not fall. And SVG, we might have been talking about a top 15, top 20 finish. He was top 20 most of the race.
Yeah, it's a great point. Moving on, this weekend we are headed to St. Louis, the Enjoy Illinois 300, one of the best names of a race you're going to find all year. As a Gateway is in the playoff for the very first time, third year that the Cup Series has gone there. And Matt, I look at this track, it has been, I think, one of the better additions to the Cup schedule in recent memory. Some great crowds, some really good racing there. I think personally, this is a welcome addition to the playoff schedule here.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a super neat facility and a great market for the sport to be in. So, really exciting to see them get an opportunity to host a playoff race, especially after what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, getting their first Cup races. So, pretty big deal for them, I feel like, to be in the playoffs. And yeah, I think it's exciting for Ford, especially knowing how they've run there in the past.
You're Matt. You had the opportunity to be around the facility or turn some hot laps at the track.
No, just on iRacing. That's the only time I've ever been to Gateway.
Nice.
It's a cool place.
Yeah, and Dom, the race only 300 miles. This is a shorter race. It goes by quick. And then now this is the first weekend of NFL action. NASCAR having to compete with the National Football League for the rest of the year, and you're going to a market that doesn't have an NFL team anymore. The RIP to the LA Rams here. This is going to be something where you got the concert series going on and all this stuff. Like to me, I think there's a lot going on. I expect St. Louis to be on the schedule for a long time.
And I didn't even think about that, Tyler, but that's a great way to capitalize. You have no St. Louis Rams football team anymore. NASCAR probably had to have seen an opportunity here. Hey, let's take advantage of, we know that they're sports fans and they want something to do on a Sunday during NFL season. Here's an opportunity to do that.
Yeah. What do you expect from the racing action this weekend, Matt?
I expect the Fords to be pretty quick, to be honest with you. I think hard to bet against them with how they've been on the short flat tracks, but obviously Toyota's got something going on. We'll see if their package and I know it's not necessarily a short track, but it's probably going to drive more like one than just with how flat it is. So I'd expect the Fords to be pretty good, and I'm not expecting Toyota to be too far behind, if not right with them or quicker. We'll see. I think this is going to be an important race to watch out for in terms of who's going to be good at Phoenix later in the year. I think it's kind of a similar, I don't want to say layout, but track size and banking wise, I feel like it probably's got a similar attitude. And Obviously, Penske was really good there last couple years, and they've yet to be beaten in the championship race in the next gen era. So I'll be watching this weekend to see kind of who's good, and think maybe they'll be sizing themselves up for Phoenix a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. This probably, I would guess, Matt, is the track that closest resembles Phoenix of what's left in the playoff. Kind of a test run of sorts.
For sure. I would totally agree with that. And I think I would imagine that teams are probably thinking that way. I'm not 100% certain. The asphalt might be completely different. Obviously, it's a completely different part of the country, and the weather's obviously probably going to be quite a bit different. So I don't know how much it really translates, but in terms of the track size, it seems like Penske's been good there in the past, about the same way they've been good at Phoenix. So we'll see. I look for it to be comparable.
Yeah, should be good. Should be good. Can't wait to see how it all plays out this weekend there from Gateway. Let's move on to our news and notes. Dom, where do you want to start out this week?
Gosh, so much to get to from the courtroom to the racetrack. Well, we'll start on the racetrack and looking at some of the silly season moves. There was an article out August 29th. Pete Pistone, first report, I believe, from MRN, about the possibility of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. not being back in the 47 team and a rumor about trying to possibly replace Justin Haley in the 7 car. Well, that ended up being false. The 47 team and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. are signed through 2026. And there were talks that Justin Haley would potentially be out of the 7 team. But The Athletic is reporting that while Haley may or may not be back in the 7 car in 2026, the hot seat has cooled a little bit because of his recent uptick in performance. And I would imagine that has to include the top 5 in Daytona, nearly punching the playoff ticket in that final race in the regular season. But nonetheless, the 7 car might be something we have to keep monitoring for the rest of the playoffs here, Tyler. And of course, Corey Heim was potentially being rumored for that car as well. But one of those things we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out.
So with the rumors there, and then the Corey Heim talk and all this, if Matt, if you're right now Justin Haley, I think you got to be watching your back a little bit. Like, might be saying to yourself, "Oh shit, I got to do something." And whether it's performance wise to try to keep his ride or audition for another ride, whatever it may be, pressure seems to be on Justin Haley right now.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Especially if you look back over at the last 12 months, there's been a lot of turnover on that 12 team, whether it's on the crew side of it or the driver side of it. I mean, really, it's been kind of crazy on that side of things. So, I don't know that Justin's really gotten a fair shake in the 7 car again with all that turnover and so much change going on all at once, with it kind of being really their first year kind of getting rolling with it, I feel like. So we'll see. Hopefully he gets another year to keep giving that a shot, but money talks. So who knows who will show up at the door.
Well, Dom, we talk about how things can change in this sport. It didn't seem like too long ago that Justin was a desired driver. He was there at Colleague, and Rick Ware Racing took him away, and that was a big surprise. And they had RFK with some backing behind him. And then he goes to Spire, and they haven't had the performance like we've seen from Carson Hocevar's team and all this. I mean, things have changed on a whim pretty fast for Justin Haley. And I don't think that he's necessarily done anything wrong. He just hasn't had the best support.
Well, we haven't talked about this, Tyler, but it's a fair comparison here, maybe like the KC Mears of this generation, where he's been bounced around from team to team, got the one win, has shown a lot of flashes of brilliance and potential, but we just really haven't seen it pan out the way it's supposed to, because we don't see Justin Haley staying at a team so long. And if he's bounced here in favor of going somewhere else, or I don't know what 2026 would look like, but it seems like Spire would really like him and would want to keep him around. There's always going to be that linkage together because they won the Daytona race in 2019 in those circumstances. And arguably Spire going from a business decision to a race team and turning around their operation like they have the last 6 years. So they're forever connected, but I know sentimental feelings only last for so long. So Haley and Spire, I don't know if it's a marriage that will continue into next year, but it would make sense to. We saw them give Corey LaJoie years and years of patience, and it feels like Haley, like Matt said, is not necessarily we're not seeing in my opinion, a fair chance here.
Well, and we talk about things being out of your control. I think everybody's kind of waiting to see what goes on with Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace with their contract situations, with being potentially in open teams, and if they're going to exercise that option to potentially leave. And then you got Daniel Suarez is still looking for somewhere to go, and that's been rumored that he could be going to Spire. That's been one thing that's been talked about. If you're Justin Haley, it it sucks to admit this, Matt, but a lot of this is kind of beyond your control. You're kind of waiting to see what everyone else does.
Well, and that's so much of the sport nowadays. When you're a driver, there's a lot out of your control. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that's kind of determining what your future looks like, whether you're successful or not. Honestly, those things can change regardless. So even if don't get me wrong, winning's definitely helpful. But I don't feel like he's run that much worse than his teammates this year. So I don't necessarily. I mean, maybe he's the one on the hot seat because maybe he's the lowest of them. But either way, I think he'll be all right wherever he ends up.
So I guess the question here, Matt, if he were to pull off a win over the next few weeks, like a Talladega or a fuel mileage race, or maybe I'm shortchanging, maybe he goes out and has speed somewhere, would a win be too little too late to save Justin Haley in that 7 team if there is a hot seat here, or would winning this late in the season still fix a lot of things?
I don't know that it's going to matter. I feel like at this point in the season, we're getting into the business side of things, and whatever's going to happen for the business side of things is rolling and probably in the works and is going to happen. So, but for his career, I think getting a legitimate, I don't want to call his first win a fluke, but it was a crazy deal how it happened. If he could get himself a nice legitimate win at a super speedway, not that the other one wasn't legitimate, by the rules, it's all good, but if he can get himself a nice legitimate win, I think it's going to help him wherever he goes next for sure. Going to help his case anyway.
Now, let me ask you this, Matt. When it comes to Justin Haley, most of his time in NASCAR's top 3 series has been in the Cup Series by a mile. It's been a while since we've seen him run much Xfinity Series racing. With Justin Haley only having one victory to his name, but showing a history, he has run up front in the past. Would it be a bad idea for Justin Haley to go to a top tier Xfinity Series team and compete for wins and compete for a championship? Or at this stage, compared to where he's at Spire, would that be a significant step back?
I will never fault somebody for jumping into a winning ride. I don't care what level it's at. I would say that, I don't know, maybe financially it'd be a step back in terms of how much you'd be making week to week, but I don't know. Hard to say whether that would be a bad opportunity or not to jump into good equipment and prove that you can still do it. I think that's a good strategy. And absolute worst case, if nothing comes of it, guess what? You're out there winning, and you at least got a shot to win. You're with a great team. I don't know. It's not a losing scenario to my knowledge anyway.
Dom, what else is going on?
So, speaking of the business, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit ago, Tyler, but from the racetrack to the court and the laps that are being turned in NASCAR, more laps have been turned since last week. And by the time you were watching or listening to this podcast, there's potential more has happened, and the news becomes very stale with what's going on in the courtroom. But this Thursday, it turns out that the judge in the case is going to rule on his decision on what NASCAR can or cannot do with the charters. And in the last few days, in the last few weeks, we've been seeing a lot of spiciness in that courtroom going back and forth between the teams versus NASCAR, where earlier this week, multiple outlets were reporting that charter teams will get more money if the front row and 23 racing teams will remain open to the tune of about $1.5 million. And that's per the Charlotte Observer, that according to their reporting that Steve Phelps, the NASCAR commissioner, had sent out a internal memo, if you will, to the 13 charter teams, that the document spells out that with 2311 and front row not being chartered, that the money would end up being dispersed to the other teams. And an average additional payment of approximately $1.5 million per charter, per the Charlotte Observer, is what the teams would make here. But Thursday's ruling, Tyler, could be very, very catastrophic or beneficial depending on what side of the aisle somebody may lie on. But nonetheless, this thing, we were talking about settlement a few weeks back, that maybe it's heading in that direction. It appears we are far from any kind of settlement anytime soon in this case.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Dom. But I think where this could potentially get messy. So if we do go to trial in December, and if let's say that for this exercise they rule in favor of NASCAR and say you can sell the charter right now, and then they get a deal in place, whether it's like a Junior Motorsports or something like that, to buy the charter, and then you go to December, and what if they end up ruling in favor of 23 in front row? Do they get that charter back? How is the team involved that's trying to buy this charter affected by it? Like, if you're NASCAR, I would guess, Dom, and this is pure speculation at this point, if you have a deal in place and are looking to sell that charter, you're probably saying to that buyer, this is a tentative agreement because we don't know for sure until the actual trial goes down. Like, there's a lot of moving parts and pieces to this.
And I feel like a lot of it has to be on hold. If I remember correctly, I don't remember who reported it, so I would love to source where I got it from. Maybe you in the comments know, so let me know below. But the fact that the judge had asked NASCAR too, that NASCAR said we're not going to sell the charters, but they had said, well, what's stopping you from issuing the 37th charter, the ones that you guys have in the bank that you guys can use to give to these potential buyers? So that was brought up in the courtroom, and if I remember last week too, Tyler, the judge said, if either of you are feeling strongly about your case, don't. Because, and again, so much has gone on with this. You hate to say the wrong thing, but my understanding was the judge said there's potential here on both sides where, hey, you're not going to know how this is going to end up. So, and of course, the judge has to stay as neutral as possible to make a ruling, but is urging these two sides to fold and to come to an agreement table on this. But neither side wants to. You can tell there's a lot of disdain, and you don't want to use the word hatred, but there's a lot of disgust. And
Yeah.
with those text messages have been going back and forth on all sides. This is getting nasty.
Yeah, and we saw the text messages where Denny said, he hated the France family, and MJ saying F them, and talking about JGR among other things. Um, there was a lot that was revealed in those text messages that came out, and where this is all going from here. I mean, then you think about like another element to all this. The big case that 23 and front row are making is the monopoly that NASCAR is. And they're pointing to like, hey, look at all these tracks they own, and they're not letting us use the next gen car out of Cup Series racing. And then on top of that, too, that the tracks that they have agreements with, even if they're not NASCAR owned tracks like SMI or something, they have exclusive deals. And so, like, when we talk about the can of worms here, Matt, I think initially everybody was kind of focused on the charter and the revenue share and all this. But now we could be talking, there's a very realistic possibility if this goes to trial, NASCAR might have to divest some of their assets a bit beyond just this charter and revenue share and all that. I mean, there's a lot of different outcomes that could unfold here.
For sure. And there's a lot of moving parts. And we talked about this last week, and man, it is a mess, and it's only gonna get messier. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens, but man, I don't even yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. I don't even know.
I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen, Dom.
No, certainly not. And Tyler, did you see the thing too about how NASCAR, and again, I don't remember where it was, but talking about in the courtroom too about how there was even interest of potentially purchasing SMI. So that might, when a jury looks at that, if they go to trial in December, how does the jury take that if all that's true and NASCAR want to purchase SMI? Because SMI operates multiple tracks around the country, and NASCAR takes that over, and all the tracks are now under the SMI ISC, which became NASCAR umbrella. So, with the exception of Indianapolis and I believe maybe a couple other tracks, but
Pocono, yeah.
well, yeah, Pocono would still be privately owned and the lease with the Chicago Street Race, but that's still under the NASCAR umbrella. You have COTA, and that's a different thing there too. But crazy, Tyler. I don't know. What's your gut telling you? I know we've talked a lot about this, but you were thinking settlement. Are you still thinking that?
I'm still thinking settlement, but I think it's a settlement that happens before the trial actually happens. I think like at the 11th hour, there's a settlement. Um, I would guess that the teams are going to keep their charters, and that NASCAR probably gets to keep their assets, but the teams get more of a revenue share that gets increased. And, with all that said, though, that's all pure speculation. I'm not a legal analyst or a judge by any means. This is just all based on what I'm guessing here. I don't, kind of like we said earlier, that's what I think's going to happen, but nobody knows for certain.
Sure.
Would you call that best case scenario?
You know, I don't know if I'd call that best case scenario because honestly, I'd like to see NASCAR kind of have to divest a little bit and sell off some of these racetracks. Personally speaking, I do think that they are onto something with this monopoly here, especially when you see that, hey, the tracks and NASCAR are making all this money and these teams are fighting for survival here. I mean, something doesn't add up right.
Did you either of you guys see the stuff they were talking about? Like, again, and I wish I knew where this was coming from. But I remember, again, things you see on social media throughout the week, but how there was a doomsday scenario. Like, so we're talking best case scenario here, but a worst case scenario where NASCAR could potentially take back the next gen vehicles and just kind of fill their own teams, because at the end of the day, this is their proprietary vehicle, unlike the previous generations of NASCAR race cars that we've seen over the 78 plus years of the sport. That NASCAR, in a worst case doomsday scenario, takes back the vehicles and they just fill the teams and drivers under their own umbrella.
Wild scenario. Wild scenario.
Right. Yeah, yeah, you can't rule anything out at this point. Like it really seems like something out of a fantasy or like a chat GPT fiction, but can't rule anything out.
I don't know. I don't even know if AI could come up with that. It's pretty gnarly. See what happens. Like I said, I think there's a lot of moving parts with this deal. So uh we'll see. We'll see what the judges rule and where we end up.
Yeah, it's all like, I don't know, Tyler. We're watching on the sidelines like everybody else, but man, to be in one of those courtrooms in that federal courthouse in Charlotte, oh man, federal court, you can't take any recording devices in. At least in state court, you can record. You'll have pool situations where TV stations will work with each other. Federal court does not allow that at all. So we're relying on the word of the journalists that are doing the nitty gritty work, and can only imagine what is being said in those courtrooms, because you can only write so much. You can't write everything down. So I know that to be quick and swift, but commending the job of everybody who's working in those courtrooms. I know Jeff Gluck, Dustin Long, Deb Williams. I'm pretty sure she's there too. Callie Crandall, Jerry Jordan, friend of the show. A lot of these guys are putting in a lot of hard work. Bob Pockris. So they're the ones that are bringing us to the forefront and keeping us in the loop too. And plus too, when the stuff gets uploaded to the Federal Pacer website, all the documents that drop, there's people sifting through hundreds of pages of stuff, so we can all talk about it and break it all down. So I don't think enough gets said, Tyler, about the people that are doing the brunt of the work, but I know they have a hard job with what they are doing at the covering of this. There's just so many moving parts and pieces.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. It is going to be something else. We'll see how it all plays out here in the coming days, coming weeks, coming months ahead. What else we got, Dom?
Look ahead to the NASCAR Enjoy Illinois 300 this week. And you have the NASCAR Cup and the NASCAR Xfinity Series taking on the track there in Madison, Illinois. But looking ahead to the race weekend, your odds-on favorite, according to the Caesars Sportsbook, at plus 450. Christopher Bell coming in as the Tuesday odds-on favorite at the time of this taping. Ryan Blaney, who gave away this race last year on the last lap, plus 500. Denny Hamlin, plus 650. Kyle Larson, plus 850. And Chase Briscoe, last week's winner, at plus 950 among your top five. Then you have Joey Logano at plus 1,000. Tyler Reddick and William Byron each at plus 1,200. Last year's winner, Austin Cindric, at plus 1,600. Bubba Wallace at plus 1,800. And Josh Berry, plus 2,000. So there's your top 10 odds-on favorites. And as you work your way down the list, Michael McDowell, last year's pole sitter in this race. Again, he was in a Ford, not a Chevrolet like he is this year, at plus 20,000 or 200 to 1. SVG at plus 25,000 or 250 to 1. And then your longest shot of the race, Cody Ware at plus 250,000 or 2,500 to 1.
Ooh, okay. Matt, let's start with you. Who catches your eye on the odds, and who do you like to win the race?
Yeah, for sure. I think Ryan Blaney's due for some redemption after last year. I know they had a rough week last week, but law of averages, it all comes around. So I think he'll rebound this week and find himself in victory lane. I know last year, what was it? He ran out of fuel, like coming to the white flag or something. He was uh all set to win that race, and um yeah, hard to bet against Blaney right now on the short tracks, but you mentioned Bell's the favorite, and that wouldn't surprise me either. This place a lot very similar to New Hampshire, and that's somewhere that Bell's got pretty well locked down. So we'll see. Either one of those guys, I think.
Dom, give me your pick.
You got to go in the Penske camp or the Ford camp altogether. Just the flat track, the Phoenix style of racing. I think we see the winner come out of that Penske camp. I'm going to go Joey Logano to win on Sunday and advance to the round of 12. And we talk about the 22 team knowing how to get it done when it's the right time. It is the right time. It's playoff time. Joey Logano, 5 top 10s on the year. We want to talk about not having the average finish last year. It was, let me show you something even further in 2025. Joey Logano, I think, gets it done on Sunday. Let's say you, Tyler.
We're gonna go all three with different picks. I'm gonna go Denny Hamlin. I think Denny Hamlin gets it done this week and shows up and shows out and makes himself a threat for this championship. And I like Dennis the Menace to get into victory lane. So, there
Dom,
you
you
go.
got to be careful. You got to be real careful picking Joey Logano in a year like this. It is an odd year. It's not an even year.
That's true. He's made
So,
the championship for it in an even year every year since they've implemented the system, but the
yep.
odds years are just awful for him. And I don't know, man. I like to think Penske's got something figured out. And then Ryan Blaney, I don't know if you guys remember Kurt Busch's 2003 season, where it was feast or famine, wins and second place finishes, or engines blown and crashes. That's Ryan Blaney this year. It's a
Yeah.
2003 Kurt Busch style of season.
Maybe so. Maybe so. You might be onto something there. All right, let's get to our mailbag segment this week, where you can submit questions to us, and we'll answer them, whatever you guys have on your minds. And we will start in the mailbag this week. It comes from Buck, and Buck wants to know. This question is for Matt. Matt, if you could race in anything outside of a NASCAR stock car, what would you want to race?
Oh man, that's a tough question because my all my aspirations are to race stock cars. Would a truck count? I don't know. I feel like that's too similar. I'd like to try something dirt, I guess. Dirt racing, some kind of dirt car would be a lot of fun to try.
Nice.
Any specific track or anything that you'd love to take a dirt car on?
Man, I feel like Eldor is pretty legendary, so I'd have to say probably run a. I don't know if I'd want to run a race a sprint car. Maybe I would. I don't know. I haven't done it, so I really just have no idea. I want to say a dirt late model at Eldora. I think that would be pretty sweet.
Matt, we got to get you out to my hometown of Tulsa for the Chili Bowl one of these years, man.
I'll tell you what, that Chili Bowl looks like an absolute blast to run. I would absolutely love to be a part of that someday. And um, I don't know. I think it'd be sweet to do alphabet soup.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be good. Dom, if you could drive anything outside of a stock car, what would you want to drive?
And I was telling, I think it was you and David last year on the show. Now, my answer still stands. Maybe it's ballsy, it's crazy, it's brave, it's something else. It's a little bit of everything. But those shifter cars, like the tag carts that run around Daytona, and they run around all these cool tracks, and they go like 100 miles an hour. I've gotten to get a taste of those at GoPro Motorplex in Charlotte or the track there at Texas Motor Speedway. But to actually have those things where you're not having 40% throttle, you actually have full throttle and go 100 miles an hour. That just seems so fun to me. But it'd probably be very fun till it's not.
And drafting too.
And oh yeah, I know. Gosh, it'd be a ton of fun. You got the fire suit, the helmet, you got a $10,000 cart beneath you, a $3,000 fire suit. Like you're doing it right. You've got the right equipment. You're doing everything awesome. But yeah, one little mess up and it's very unforgiving. So I guess that's where my mind would go. How about you, Tyler?
Um, this sounds like the easy answer, but I would love to hop in one of those F1 cars with, just how dynamic they are and the speed that they have. I remember years ago the seat swap that Lewis Hamilton and Tony Stewart did, and Tony Stewart was even amazed, and he's driven. By the way, quick shout out, not to get too sidetracked here. I don't know if you guys saw the NHRA Top Fuel regular season champion is Tony Stewart.
And that's awesome.
That man is just he's incredible, Tyler.
I mean, Matt, to kind of get perspective on this, uh, I want to bring this in for a moment. Like, this is what he did, by the way, to win that. That's not like going from NASCAR to IndyCar or NASCAR to a sprint car. That's a whole different sport altogether and a whole different style of racing. And for the idiots out there, like, oh, he's just driving straight. Like, no, no, no. I mean, that is out of this world what Tony did to win that. And it
Uh,
gets
yeah,
great competition. Guys have been doing that all their lives.
I know. And it's pretty incredible to watch, but I guess we shouldn't be surprised, man. I mean, he's done it and everything he's jumped into. I think about the only thing left for him to do, a couple things, I guess, would be boat racing and then maybe some rallycross. I think those are about the two other disciplines he's got left to master.
MotoGP as well,
Oh
maybe.
yeah, there you go.
Unless he's
I don't
done
know if he's. I don't know if he's gonna. I don't know if he's.
it. Yeah.
I don't think we're
It's
gonna see
dangerous.
him in MotoGP. Yeah, who
Tony
knows?
Stewart, MotoGP, get him in motocross. Let's see what happens when Tony falls off the bike.
I can't. I don't think we're gonna be seeing that.
Yeah, I don't think so. I want to see him happen, and I just haven't seen it yet. I still want to see him race 1v1 versus his wife, Lee Pruitt.
That would be a sight to see, man. That'd be great.
Like, she's a great race car driver
Yeah,
herself. Like, she could beat Tony.
definitely. Oh, definitely.
I think we could see that at some point down the road.
Yeah. All right. Next question in the mailbag this week. It comes from Casey, and Casey wants to know, guys, who is somebody that missed the playoff this year that has a chance to compete for the championship next year? I'll start with you, Dom.
So many moving parts and pieces with the offseason, but if they can secure another charter, we saw some race winning speed towards the end of the regular season from Ryan Preece. That's a name that immediately stands out to me. He's had a career year, even though he didn't make the playoffs. Of course, the goal every year is you want to win the championship, but of course, small leaps take you to big places before we know it. And that 60 team, they are building on something. If they can secure a second charter in 2026 for that team, because it's on a lease from Rickware Racing right now, watch out. Ryan Preece, that 60 car, there's good things happening there.
How about you, Matt? Who's somebody that missed the playoff that you think could contend for the title next year?
I'm gonna stay in the RFK camp. I definitely agree that team, especially towards the end of the regular season. I think we're definitely championship caliber, and I think Chris Buescher is that guy. I'm a Buescher believer.
Okay. Okay. You know what? I'll give you a different name that missed the playoff that I think he's still got it in him. It's just a lot has gone wrong. But if things can come together, I think he can still compete at a high level. Give me Kyle Busch. I don't think, Matt, that Kyle Busch has forgotten how to drive a race car. I think that they've just had a lot of issues going on in RCR. They've been out of his control. I think Randall Burdett is still a hell of a crew chief. We saw the success he had with Kyle's first year. And then before that, with Tyler Reddick here, if they can just figure some things out, and maybe they can figure it out here at the end of the regular season, I still think Kyle Busch is a championship caliber driver.
I think you're spot on with that. I honestly though, I don't know what his mindset's like. But when you're running bad, man, that confidence, it takes a hit. So, I think if they get some better cars up underneath him, get him a little confidence, he'll be the Kyle Busch that we've known and loved for so many years. I think he'll be back.
Gosh, we're talking after the Gateway win 2 years ago, Tyler, I think on the show about how can he catch Dale Earnhardt. It was 163. And even Busch and RCR were all talking about that. And just, I don't know. He finished second at Sonoma later that year. had another second place finish somewhere else. Like Busch was running at places really well that we hadn't seen him run very well in a long time. And then the 8 teams' performance just tanked in the playoffs, and we've been seeing that consistent run ever since. I think there's still wins in the tank for Kyle Busch, Tyler. I don't know if he catches Earnhardt, but man, it's weird living in this timeline, seeing Kyle Busch running like how we saw Bobby Labonte run in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, yeah. It's fascinating. I think that right now, Matt, there is a lot of talent in the Cup Series, but this is probably the first time in a while where the talent outweighs the equipment, where the team, the drivers, there's a lot of guys that can win on any given week if everything was equal. The problem is not everything is equal and far from it.
No, for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think we're probably as close to equal as we've ever been with the next gen cars, but I don't know, man. It's so hard to say. It seems like the drivers all say that the equipment kind of outweighs the talent level right now, or the ability to make a difference as a driver right now. So I'm really not sure. It kind of depends again if they make some changes to the car for next season. What we end up seeing, we'll see what happens. It's all interesting.
It is indeed. All right, before we get out of here, guys, Dominic, what's going on with you this week, man?
Yeah, just a weekend on the home front. Not any travel this weekend, but we'll be hitting the road really soon to go cover some multiple NASCAR Cup Series playoff races this year. So a lot of fun, working on some fun projects. Hope to get to announce here later on this year too. But yeah, just enjoying the weekend at home with the family and some much needed family time over Labor Day weekend, and it'll continue into this upcoming weekend.
What about you, Matt? What do you got going on here the next few days?
I think I spent Labor Day kind of laboring. So I'm thinking this weekend upcoming is actually going to be more relaxing than my Labor Day was. So I think we'll be in good shape this upcoming weekend. Tyler, you traveling this weekend?
I don't know yet, honestly. Everything is kind of TBD at this point, but I'm sure I'll be doing something. I'll be trying to balance watching the start of the NFL season along with college football and NASCAR, and wherever I'm at, I'll be in front of a TV, one way or the other. I can guarantee you that much. So
there's 3 weeks left in summer. The summer of Jones has to have an encore performance somewhere, right?
the encore, the overtime, whatever you want to call it, we got options.
And then you got the fall of Jones later this month.
No fall of Jones. No, we're not falling. No. On that note, we'll put the checkered flag out on this edition of Let's Go Racing. Subscribe to the show. New episodes out each and every week. Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit us up on YouTube as well. Smash that like button. We certainly would appreciate it. And follow us on social media, X, Facebook, as well as all those platforms. This show, part of the Studio Soapbox Network, along with the Jones Report, the Coach Bonehouse podcast. Check those shows out as well. For Matt Kemp and Dominic Aragon, I'm Tyler Jones saying so long. It's been another edition of Let's Go Racing. We'll see you next week.